News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Matt Piper. In a major constitutional ruling, the Supreme Court limits the use of the Voting Rights Act to create predominantly black or Hispanic election districts that strengthen Republican efforts to keep control of the House in this year's midterms and beyond. In a 6-3 vote, the justices rejected a Louisiana congressional map that was drawn with a second majority black district after a lower court found an earlier map to be discriminatory. Bloomberg's June Grasso with more.
The Supreme Court has eliminated every other kind of challenge, basically. And what it did is, for example, you can't challenge gerrymandering for political reasons. So you could only at this point challenge it for racial reason. And now it appears that the court has curbed the use of race in drawing voting districts as well.
Bloomberg's June Grasso. You can hear more on the Bloomberg Intelligence podcast. Florida lawmakers, meantime, today approved a measure to redraw the state's congressional lines, which could hand Republicans as many as 4 more seats in Congress. The GOP-controlled State House voted in favor of the map proposed by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. President Trump tells Axios he's going to keep Iran under a naval blockade until the regime agrees to a deal that addresses U.S. concerns about its nuclear program. He's rejecting the Iranian proposal to first open the Strait of Hormuz and lift the blockade while postponing nuclear talks to a later stage. Iran, meantime, renewed its threat to disrupt a second vital shipping lane if the U.S. keeps intercepting its ships. Bloomberg Intelligence senior defense research analyst Wayne Sanders.
The blockade is working. It's providing the pressure that you're already looking for. The bombing campaign did a great job of destroying a lot of the military infrastructure across Iran, but at this point in time, Iran has already proven they're not exactly worried about the Iranian people, and some additional military strikes I don't think is really going to gain the U.S. anything. It actually makes the U.S. look more like an aggressor on that if we were to continue to do that without being provoked by Iran.
Retired Colonel Wayne Sanders with Bloomberg Intelligence. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is facing questioning from lawmakers today for the first time since President Trump launched the war against Iran. The hearing was called to discuss Trump's proposal to boost next year's military spending to an unprecedented $1.5 trillion. Acting Pentagon Controller Jules Hurst on the cost so far during testimony alongside Hegseth before the House Armed Services Committee.
So approximately at this day, we're spending about $25 billion on Operation Epic Fury. Most of that is munitions. There's part of that is obviously O&M and equipment replacement. We will formulate a supplemental through the White House that will come to Congress once we have a full assessment of the cost of the conflict.
Acting Pentagon Controller Jules Hurst, Democrats have accused the White House of engaging in a war that was not needed and happened without congressional approval. Kevin Warsh has won the backing of the Senate Banking Committee on a 13-11 party line vote to be the next chair of the Federal Reserve. It puts him on track to be confirmed by the full Senate before Jerome Powell's term ends May 15th. Democrats have expressed concerns that Warsh's confirmation would help President Trump dominate the Fed's monetary policy. Bloomberg's Enda Curran is in Washington.
Today just really cements that after that extraordinary succession drama we've had since January over the DOJ investigation and all the rest of questions around the Fed, Mr. Warsh has now cleared that critical vote and is on the way to be the next chair.
Bloomberg's Enda Curran. Hear the entire conversation with him on the Bloomberg Intelligence podcast. The Fed's April rate decision comes this afternoon, 2 p.m. Wall Street time, but the focus may be less on the future for rates than on Jay Powell's future as a member of the board after his term as chair runs out in a little more than 2 weeks. Bloomberg's Michael McKee is in Washington.
I wouldn't be surprised, put it this way, if the first question to Jay Powell wasn't, what's your future plans? Because we know the Fed isn't going to do anything now. They are sidelined, as are pretty much central banks around the world, waiting to see what happens with oil prices, with the war. And don't forget, we've got tariffs coming down the road. So there's a lot of uncertainty about where the economy is going. And strengthen the U.S. economy just strengthens the Fed's hand, their ability to sit on the sidelines.
Bloomberg's Mike McKee in Washington. Our coverage of the Fed decision and likely final Powell news conference begins at 1:30 Eastern on a special edition of Bloomberg Surveillance. The Fed decides on Bloomberg Radio and Television and the Bloomberg Business app. Well, the entire stock market may be riding on 4 big names today when Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft report earnings this afternoon. Bloomberg tech host Ed Ludlow with more on that.
We're bracing for Armageddon, and capital expenditures is still the swing factor for the market, but probably given the Wall Street Journal reporting on OpenAI missing financial metrics and the market of the last 2 days, more than ever, Wall Street is looking for evidence of ROI. They want to see that capital expenditures is followed by boosted forward guidance and tangible revenue growth. And that's the dynamic of this market.
Bloomberg tech host Ed Ludlow looked for those earnings potentially within 80 seconds of each other after the closing bell. The stock market slipping as the countdown ticks to an announcement from the Federal Reserve on what it will do with interest rates. We check the markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P is down 0.2%. NASDAQ is also down 0.2. The Dow is down 0.7%. The 10-year yield is up 1%. 2-year yield up 1.5%. Bitcoin is down 0.6%. Oil prices continue to march higher because of the war with Iran. West Texas Intermediate is at $105 a barrel. Brent crude, $117 per barrel. Bill Ackman's Pershing Square is going public after raising $5 billion for his vision, which came at the low end of a fundraising target that was much higher. The $5 billion haul was the bare minimum to keep early investors locked into the deal. What's different this time around that he was able to get it done versus the last time? Bloomberg's Bailey Lipschultz.
Smaller size, so $5 billion is not anything to bat an eye at, but it is smaller than the 25 that they were targeting. And really the big selling point was a piece of the management company. So for every 5 shares of the closed-end fund you bought, you got 1 share in the management company. The easiest way to think about that is if the closed-end fund trades at a 10% discount, you need the management company to trade at $25 and you break even. Ackman's acknowledged, most people in the industry have acknowledged closed-end funds trade at a discount, so it was a hard sell to Wall Street and institutions to say, buy this stock or give us your money. We know you're going to lose money immediately, but trust us.
Our Bailey Lipschultz on Bloomberg Balance of Power. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Matt Piper, and this is Bloomberg.